What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with Off the Chain, the weekly panel discussion show. So for another edition, we've got a fine panel, as always. So we're going to first introduce the special guest this week. He is a two-time UFC vet. He's a MMA media personality. You know him as The Truth, Mike Jackson. Mike, what's going on, my man?
Nothing, man. Just enjoying life right now, and I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate you coming on, man. So, of course, we always have the senior editor of Sherdog.com, the jack of all trades who's mastered them all, Mr. Ben Duffy. Ben, what's going on?
I'm just excited to be back in town. I was over across the border in Louisiana last weekend. I've been catching up on other MMA all day Sunday, and I'm ready to hit the ground running right now.
All right, and of course, to anchor the panel, the man who is all about the math, all about the stats, all about the facts. This man is known as Jay Pettry. Jay, what's going on with you, bro?
How we doing, fellas? Now, I got something for you guys. I want to test something out. A little stat of the week. For this week, 0, which is the number of ground strikes that Colby Covington landed, despite landing 10 takedowns on Robbie Lawler. So, yeah, there you go. Food for thought. Wow. We'll talk about this one, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. That's let that one be fresh in my mind because Colby Covington is the first topic of discussion today, as he did make the biggest news in the MMA world. But first, I got to explain the blue hat. So it is confirmed the wife is having a boy, so I'm having a son. So I'm celebrating. But of course, I got a fresh haircut for the party, so I got to lose the hat. Got to show off the fade. So, all right. So let's get going, fellas. Buy or sell. Colby Covington's next fight will be against Kamaru Usman for the title. And let's just keep it to the fights itself, to how they match up. We will get to all the fun stuff after this. But, Ben, I'm going to start with you. Buy or sell, Colby Covington is the next title challenger.
Yes, we asked this question last week. Would he get the title shot? I said yes, he would if he beat Lawler. It's the rare case of the thing that makes the most competitive sense also making the best business sense. And both of those things have only increased in the wake of Saturday. He put on a career-defining performance, and he cut a disgusting promo that only builds up the heat for the fight. So, yes, it's going to happen. That's the next thing.
All right, Mike. So is Colby Covington the number one contender in your eyes?
I mean, it's kind of one of these – it's more on the business side of things. And look, I understand what's going on here, and it only makes sense. And then like Ben said, adding on the promo and all the spiciness, this is the matchup that you have to make. And dude's walking around with a title like he's the real deal. So let's make it happen. And then it's gonna make a lot of money too. So he's gonna get that work though. So.
All right, Jay. Do you feel that Colby Covington will be the next in line for that title shot?
I mean, Ben's right. We did kind of bang on this drum last week, but I was still swinging with. I mean, I even dropped a memento quote that not to believe Dana's lies, but I reluctantly buy it now. I think that we're probably going to see the set though. It was so stage planned out. Like I even saw, I think it was MMA Junkie, that had an article saying security stationed at the booth when Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington are talking to each other. You probably saw the video of them. But it's one of those situations, the title picture is so rarely set. And then Mike brings up the point, this is the one that makes the most business sense. It is the one that's going to make the money. Is it going to make them like blockbuster money? I don't know. But it's what we're going to have to deal with right now. I mean, I mentioned the numbers earlier about him landing 0 ground strikes, but he threw 541. I mean, he landed 200 or so. That's insanity. That's the kind of performance you got to have to make people go, whoa, maybe this guy can do it. Will he do it? But it's worth a shot. It'll be fun to see it happen.
I definitely got to agree with a couple of things that you guys were saying, that this is one of the rare times where business interests meet competitive interests. And unlike some of his previous fights, I mean, remember one of the fights that got everybody talking about Colby Covington was the fight against Damian Maia. He got outboxed by Damian Maia in the first round, which says a lot. The Dos Anjos fight was closer than what I think the scorecards reflect. Yeah. So there was a shadow of doubt on him being the number one contender from a competitive standpoint. We understand what sort of heat he brings to the mic, what sort of attention he can draw, but now seeing him overwhelm Robbie Lawler with such incredible volume to outstrike Robbie Lawler at multiple occasions during the fight, repeatedly take him down. It's kind of hard when you got a 7-fight win streak, and you have a title belt, although it may not be valid anymore. He still walks around with it. He's got a title belt that the UFC gave him. He's got a 7-fight win streak. As far as I'm concerned, that is the number one contender. And I don't really think there's anyone else who belongs rightfully in that conversation. Even if we talk about Jorge Masvidal, who's gone 2 for 2 in his last 4. Granted, the last 2 were highlight reel knockouts, but let's be real. Colby Covington's got one of the better winning streaks in the UFC right now. But of course, the marquee about Colby Covington is not necessarily high pressure wrestling and zero ground strikes. It's about the controversy. And of course, in Covington fashion, he brought the chaos as far as his post-fight speech was concerned, making quite the cheap shot at Matt Hughes. So Mike, tell me, man, did you think this went too far?
As a neutral body in the whole thing, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no because this is real life, and if that's how he really feels, then and so be it. And it's undecided if he really feels that way, but the character that he's portraying, he's doubling down with these actions, the way he's speaking, what he's doing. So he's gonna have to stand by that. But on a personal level, I wholeheartedly disagree with it. I think that, look, man, that had nothing to do with anything. It's like, what are you doing talking about Matt Hughes in this fashion? It was unnecessary. But we all know why he did it. We know the connection that Robbie has with Matt, and then we just know, like, Colby's just a bad person. Like, I don't want to, like, really just I know the language barrier is here, but he's just not a good dude. So this is on par for him. And the thing about this is, like, because I had this conversation with someone, they asked me about if he could, maybe turn his life around after this, and I was like, no, like, this isn't wrestling, this isn't scripted, and this is real life, and there's literally I can't see him coming back. Especially with the climate and everything going on in the country, in the world, actually, I can't see this dude coming back from this ever. So if he loses and he goes down in horrible fashion, there's nothing he can do. He won't be able to redeem himself.
Jay, did you have a problem with his Matt Hughes comment?
Well, there's an editorial from our own Eric Stinton about 2 years ago that talked about Colby Covington right when he was starting to mouth off and talk trash about Brazil and all the comments he made. And he said something that stuck with me. Anger fogs our thinking. That he can say these things and they'll just flip something off in our brain and they'll make us go, oh, and we will stop thinking about legitimacy. We'll stop thinking, we'll think, man, I want to see him get smoked. I want to see whatever. I just want to see this happen. And I mean, Mike's right. It's a character. To me, it's a character. It's pre-planned. It's the kind of thing that you feel that he consulted with a PR guy or girl beforehand. In Brazil,
it was a guy.
Yeah,
or an Instagram girl.
I don't even think y'all give him too much credit. Y'all think this dude went out and hired a team for this? No, the dude is just that ignorant, and he woke up one day and I feel he believes, like, just like all these other Trump people, he's just one of the Trump people in a position to boast
have the microphone.
You know what I'm saying? So he can boast about it now. Look, this is how he really feels. It's maybe a little exaggerated with the C-class strippers and stuff, but it's still him. This is him. He didn't hire anybody for this. This is all him.
And see, I agree. I don't think he hired anybody to do this, but I think all you had to do is turn on the cable news network and flip the channels, and there's your cannon fodder right there. There it is. And I will say this though, the fact that we're talking about him right now means that it's working.
Bingo.
You know, it means that he is on the right track as far as getting attention to get the biggest prize in prize fighting. Before he started wearing the MAGA hat, before he started talking a bunch of crazy stuff, I didn't know who he was, and I don't think many of us knew who he was, at least outside of this guy that was on a decent win streak in the UFC. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I didn't really care about the Matt Hughes comment. Like, as far as just trash talk and one-liners go, as I've demonstrated on this show, nothing is off limits. The only question is it funny? I don't care if it's too harsh, if it's too soon, whatever. But I mean, to introduce Mike the Truth to our language barrier here, this fucking asshole. I mean, in a climate where we've had these shootings recently, like dehumanizing other people by calling brown people filthy animals, or aligning yourself with somebody that calls predominantly African-American inner cities infested, it's not harmless trash talk. He is hitching his wagon to something which is larger than the sport in an ugly way. So he has earned his title shot in the cage, and I hope he gets his day in court, and I will report on it as is required of me as a journalist. But as a person, I don't really have much use for him anymore.
Well, think of what Robbie Lawler said. I mean, after the interview, of all the people to ask, he's one of the two people that you want to hear from. You want to hear from him, and you want to hear from Matt Hughes, which we heard from both of them. Now, Matt Hughes said, you can take his comments with a grain of salt. Said, you got to have a thick skin. Meanwhile, as we remember him being mad at Rashad Evans on Ultimate Fighter for showboating and having a little fun in the cage. So, Matt Hughes can do what Matt Hughes does. But Robbie Lawler said, he doesn't really think much of it. But
he was mad at Evans for showboating after beating his rapist buddy Mike Whitehead.
Oh yeah,
very true.
Potato. But Robbie said that we the media are the ones who are going to talk about it, write about it, eat it up, editorials. That's for us to have our opinions on, and he's right. I mean, that's where it's getting all the traction. Here we go. Question number 2 on our weekly show. And we're talking about Colby. Did he go too far? That's the kind of thing you see like in the Daily Standard after a comedian comes to town and he says a joke that people go, ooh. It's smart.
What's the Daily Standard? I've never heard that.
It's just random newspaper. It doesn't matter which one.
I want to ooh with the crazy people.
Well, I do find it interesting that we're asking about the Matt Hughes line going too far, and you guys are bringing up things that, at least in my opinion, are much more relevant, and that's kind of the socio-political lines that he's bordering on, and I shouldn't even say bordering on, that he is quite clearly jumping over.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Anthony. The joke about Matt Hughes did not have a bunch of motherfuckers in their basement lining up to run trains into Matt Hughes. It was not a call to action.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed.
Much as some people might like to see Matt Hughes get hit by another train. Not me, but I'm just saying. That's the difference between trash talk and actual shouting fire in a crowded theater type talk.
Right. Yeah, but I do, and God forbid that I'm actually defending some of Colby Covington's actions here, because I think we all know where I stand on the political lines, and I make that very clear. If you follow me on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA, by the way, so I make my stances very clear. But as far as just pure prize fighting goes, outside of the detriment towards society and how ugly the promotion can get, I mean, this is the escalation of the Chael Sonnen playbook. You are an effective fighter who has a decent record, has some serious ability, and no one knows, no one cares. But the moment you start, throwing out some coded language out there that crosses a few lines, now all of a sudden people are caring. Now all of a sudden you're making more money. So for Colby Covington, it's like, should he care that now he's making the bigger prize at the detriment of society? And that's not a rhetorical question.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in on this. I mean, it's right. I mean, you think other guys, and just in terms of a divisional sense, Leon Edwards just won. He's 8 in a row. Ponzinibbio, 7 in a row. So Santos, he has all these guys that are all on great win streaks over great guys, so he can stand out from the pack. Now, one way to do that is market yourself as the villain. I mean, I've seen people already refer to this as the 2019 Chael Sonnen, a powerful wrestler with a style that isn't quite copacetic to some of his fights aren't very exciting, just straight up. So he can have this persona, this whole spiel that he may truly believe, amplify it, get a microphone, and have everybody watching him, and it's working.
Yeah, it's unfortunate though, because he did even what Chael did though. Like Chael could come back from that. It was more personal attack. Yeah, he made some shots at at Brazil and things like that. But he could come back from that.
Kobe, absolutely, he did.
Yeah, right. He did. I should say. Kobe's not. He can't. He won't. Man.
I mean, and I would like to get off this topic into the next question as much as the next person, but just as the big difference between Colby and Chael is that Chael always got the joke and was in on the joke. When Chael said about jiu-jitsu, well, I'm a Republican and we don't do that stuff. He didn't really think that jiu-jitsu was gay. He was making a joke. He trains jiu-jitsu. He knows that people in Brazil have the internet. He was dropping one-liners to get some pop. And the Brazilians got it too. I mean, Marcelo Alonso, I remember he was on a Sherdog roundtable a few years ago. And they asked him how Chael Sonnen is received when he's on the street in Brazil. And he said, after Vanderlei Silva and Anderson Silva, he's probably the third most popular fighter in Brazil. They know it's a joke.
You actually reminded me of some UFC promo video. I forget what fight it was ahead of. I want to say it might have been the Shogun fight, but they were showing him training with Brazilian flag tap out shorts. So I found that kind of funny. And it was hilarious, really. But see, like Colby Covington has I think he's just bad at it as far as the personality factor. I'm pretty sure, at least Mike and Ben, I'm pretty sure you have. Jay, I'm not sure about you, but I know I've met Chael Sonnen and talked to him a couple of times, and he is a very charming guy. He's a guy that you can just sit down and have a conversation with, and you will immediately feel like you're his best friend. I don't think Colby Covington has that personality in him. I don't think he's kind of a dork who is pretending like he isn't.
Colby Covington is the kid who is homeschooled, so they have no social skills. They don't know how to talk to people. I'm sure he grew up on the wrestling mat, and he was in the training all the time. And so those were his peers, and that was the only social connection he had to people. You can tell. I know people like that, and I see it all the time. He doesn't have friends outside of fighting. Outside of people that he's hiring and paying for.
Yeah, I was just about to say you could track his friends through Cash App, but anyway. So all right, so of course we can go on and on about Colby Covington, and I know this is a topic that will come up at some point again. But let's move on to very briefly another aspect of UFC on ESPN5. Jim Miller defeats Clay Guida, and now we've seen Jim Miller. I had this Jim Miller with a full head of hair. I think that's important. But Jim Miller's won 3 out of his last 4, and the post Lyme disease Miller. Do you guys think that he has the ability to make another run at lightweight? Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I didn't get the chance to see the fight, but it's one of those things where how far can you really get? I mean, yes, he's being successful. I guess if the skills continue to improve, and what can he do in the division? I don't know anything about his ranking right now. The people that are ahead of him, I mean, how does he look against them?
We'll pull up the rankings.
I don't think he's ranked. I don't think he's anywhere close to being ranked.
He should. Yeah, he's not ranked as far as I know.
From coming back from Lyme disease, and you have this fight in you, but how far can he really go? Can he become champion? Because everybody at this point, their goal is obviously to become champion. So for him, I mean, can he become champion? I don't know. Coming back from the Lyme disease.
All right. Ben, your thoughts?
I don't think he's back. I mean, he's 37.
35.
35? He looks
36 in a month.
He looks 37. God, how the hell you know this man's birthday, Jay?
Jay knows all the numbers. Yeah.
All right. I mean, his absolute high water mark was about 9 or 10 years ago when he was the 4th best lightweight in the world after like BJ Penn and then 2 guys who had beat him in Edgar and Maynard. Like that was kind of Jim Miller's high water mark. He was never an easy out for anybody. Super awesome grinder. I mean, he's looked great in his last couple fights. He's won 3 of the 4, but who are the 3 wins? I mean, Alex White is hanging around the UFC by his fingernails. Jason Gonzalez was a legit win. And then the Guida fight this past Saturday. And again, I was literally driving from Houston to Lake Charles during the main card, so I had to catch up on it on Sunday. But I mean, he did to Guida kind of the same thing that Kenny Florian did. Like just ignored all the wild shit, popped him in the face, and then jumped on him and choked him. I don't think it tells us a whole lot about either guy except that they are who we thought they were. So, I mean, Miller can definitely stick around. He's got a new lease on life. But that is a crowded-ass division to try to claw your way back into the top 10 of. With the possible exception of welterweight, where like half the people in the top 10 are on 5-fight or greater winning streaks and just haven't met each other yet because it's so crowded, it's the hardest division to get a title shot in. So, no, he's not back. He's not going to be a contender again. But whatever gate he wants to keep and cash some more checks and invite his victims to go fishing with him, I'm here for it.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's got a steady paycheck. I think that's kind of where we can put this to bed. He is, hitting that point where physically a lightweight is not going to be able to compete, even though he's looking better than he did before the Lyme disease was handled. Still not going to get you very far at 155. So I think as entertaining as Jim Miller is, I think we can officially put to bed title contendership. And a true school comeback for him.
Let me ask you one quick follow-up. Okay, so title or not, whatever. Is he a UFC Hall of Famer? Will he be a UFC Hall of Famer? Most fights for now, 20-win club with, who's in the 20-win club? Cerrone, Bisping, GSP, and Maia. One less submission than Royce Gracie and Damian Maia, all these things, everything. He has never fought for a belt, but with Jim Miller's ridiculously long career, Hall of Famer? Yes or no? What do you think?
I say Hall of Famer based on the Ben Henderson fight. I think he gets in for that fight.
And not the Joe Lozon fight?
That was a good one too. Why not? Okay, you convinced me. Jim Miller, Hall of Famer. Any disagreement, fellas?
No, I give my thumbs up. I like the volume of wins, is the quantity as well as the quality. He put in work, so let's give it to him.
All right. Okay, gentlemen.
Hofa definitely, right, Ben?
Hopefully.
All right, so we're going to move on to the shock and awe segment. So I'd like for you guys to tell me something that surprised you the most about the fights over the weekend, whether it be the UFC, whether it be one championship, LFA, whatever. Pre-fight, post-fight, the fights themselves. Mike, I'll start with you. What's your shock and awe moment for the week?
My shock and awe moment was that Levi Miles came in 6 pounds overweight for the LFA 73 main event. That was my shock and awe. And the reason I say it is because I know Levi personally. I've never seen anything like this. Funny story is, as the day of weigh-ins, I'm coming back from getting lunch, and I'm getting on the elevator, and as you get on and you turn around, well, he follows right back in, and as I'm looking at him, he spoke. So I knew I know what cutting weight is like. If I'm dehydrated, I don't even want to talk to you. But he looked at me, he spoke and asked me, what floor he had to get off on. So I knew he was depleted, but I just didn't know where he fell in the range. And when I actually went and took a nap, and I missed the early weigh-ins, and I came back for the ceremonial ones, and that's when I found out that it was just scratched and that he missed. So that's my shock and awe moment of the week.
All right, Ben, what's yours?
You know what? When I saw that like 5 people missed weight for that LFA card, Anyway, it went onto the back burner for me to catch up on Sunday. I mean, I don't know if I was shocked or awed, but coming up in my fandom in this sport in an era when I saw Yushin Okami come into the UFC, and then I was one of the people banging the table for him to finally get a title shot, I was kind of shocked and awed to see his decline this weekend. I spent Sunday kind of catching up on MMA that I had not seen on Saturday. I watched the main card of UFC on ESPN5. I watched the main card and some of the highlights of One Championship, 100 minus 1, or whatever they called it. One Championship, You Killed My Father. Prepare to die. Whatever the name of that card. And Okami just got completely ground into the dust by LFA veteran James Nakashima, and it's just kind of sad how shot he looks, and just kind of how quickly he fell off a cliff. Because, just going to throw this out there, One Championship is often a place where UFC and Bellator stars in their mid to late 30s can go and find a new lease on life, physically and competitively.
Mm-hmm. Chemically.
Who knows why?
I'm sure we'll circle back to this, but that has not been the case for Yushin Okami. And I find it a bummer. He's always been a classy dude in the sport. I certainly hope he's cashing big checks over there in one, but I was shocked and awed just to see how depleted he looked. He's still the same chiseled, crazy V-taper, 13-inch waist guy, looking like Johnny Bravo that he's always been. But just so slow, so tired, so quickly, and just looks like he's aged 50 years in the last 5 years. So it was shock, awe, and a bit of a bummer. Yushin Okami, sorry.
All right, Jay, what's your shock and awe moment?
Well, I, too, was incredibly shocked by LFA because 5 guys missed weight, and the main event was scrapped. And it's in the last 3 events, 2 of those 3 have had this kind of stuff. LFA 71 had 2 guys came in heavy, and 2 didn't show up to the weigh-ins. Whether that was short notice or whatever happened, that was shocking. But my biggest shocking moment was the refereeing of UFC Newark, because there was consistency. There were some great performances, if you could say that about a referee doing their job, and there were some not great performances. Herb Dean missed the tap badly, and Trevin Giles went out cold because he couldn't see the tap. He wasn't in position for that. Let's see. Lucy Pudilova didn't tap, but I don't know if Clay Guida. I think Clay Guida went out too. But the point is, there were some inconsistencies there. And then the Jacekwu Stosic fight. I always have a hard time making sure which consonants to pronounce. And Kennedy and Jacekwu's. He got kicked in the groin 3 times. Jacekwu?
It's Kennedy Kupchekwu now.
he got kicked in the groin 3 times. Darko Stosic lost 2 points and may or may not have lost the decision for him, depending on the scorecards you look at. But the referee, Gary Copeland, Brock Lesnar, Gary Copeland,
with the painted on shirt,
really did a fantastic job watching out for that fight, making sure that he didn't come back too quickly. Because the guy's okay, I'm good. And they're still going, ooh, but they're good. Come back. He stopped. He said, take your time. I'm going to talk to him. Warned Stosic 5 times. Hey, I'm just warning you again. To make sure that he could take all the time he needed to get back. He actually stopped when the clock stopped to check with the commissioner to make sure what the right rule was in this case. Do I take an extra point? Is it a DQ? Whatever. He checked to make sure that everybody's on the level. And that was great. Well, if you have the chance to do that, please do that, referees. That's how you do it.
All right. My shock and awe moment is also from UFC Newark, and that is that the Trump family actually showed up. I was very surprised by that. I mean, we heard the rumors, but we heard those rumors ahead of UFC 225 when Colby Covington was fighting Rafael Dos Anjos for the interim title. Those same rumors came about. No Trump showed up. And we got, I think, Donald Jr. tweeted or something afterward, and that was the most acknowledgement that we heard, aside, of course, from the White House visit later on. But to see the Trump family actually show up for what otherwise was a pretty lackluster card, a free TV card in the early start time, in Newark, New Jersey, not in a major market city, even though that is close enough to New York City. It struck me as odd. And then, of course, the congratulatory phone call after a non-title win, while there's actually like a mass shooting going on in the background, just seemed pretty strange. But
I'll say, well, one, didn't know about the last, so I wasn't so shocked because the first, I guess, whenever he fought before, I never heard anything about them showing up. But like you said, they didn't come. But this one, man, I heard it earlier in the week, and I knew they were going, man. Especially again, given the time that we're in, like these people, they want the attention. They want as much attention, and they want as much time to get their message out as possible. So if they say they're gonna have some fights on TV, you better believe Trump's gonna be there if they got the man fighting. Luckily for him though, that he won. I don't know what it'd been like if he was lost.
Man.
Man, well, we'll have some conversations off air about this. All right, so speaking of getting a message out, Dana White got his message out very clearly about Cris Cyborg a couple days back, and she is officially a free agent. He has decided to waive the matching rights to any offers. They're not going to offer another contract. She is free to go and do whatever she chooses. Of course, this decree was given via the UFC's YouTube page with Laura Sanko conducting this interview. Now, Mike, I want to start with you because you have been someone who has drawn the ire of Dana White in the past as a fighter in the organization. So what did you make of all the Cris Cyborg news this week? The apology, the demands, the whole picture. What did you make of this?
Well, man, it's tough to kind of to figure because both sides are gonna have their stories. It's like, who do you believe? But I listened to the interview because that's how I found. Well, I saw the clip and then I watched the entire interview. But for me, just watching the entire interview, it makes sense. And again, even when I heard that before I watched it and I heard that he wasn't going to be resigned, even it made sense because she coming out. Although she had the recent win, she lost to Amanda. And the hype behind Cyborg is that she's the baddest woman on the planet. Well, obviously that's not the case anymore. So when you have this, who's in the division? It's a very shallow division.
Division?
Four fighters.
That's my point. So what people don't understand is like, this is, again, comes back to it. It's a business. And if you just get rid of that, that's going to save you money. Like it doesn't, having Cyborg on the roster is cool, but who is she going to fight? And like she said, the Pam Sorensen and Cindy Gandoy, like she can fight them in Invicta. And to be honest with you, I definitely don't want to see that. Look, if you send Cyborg to Invicta, we know what's going to happen. She's just going to go through and just ravage the whole company.
Again.
Like it doesn't do anything, right? So it doesn't do anything for Invicta. It doesn't do anything for the UFC. So by not signing her, it makes perfect sense. And I think what happens is people are in their feelings and they know the past and the history, and they're judgmental about it. And you have to be unbiased about this, but that's how tough that is for people.
All right, Jay. So give me your thoughts on the Dana White State TV interview.
Well, Dana won. He won the battle and he won the war. And I am very surprised by that because of how the week started. I mean, you might remember Dana or Cyborg posted the video and the clips of Dana saying these things about her and Rogan trashing on her, and he had them. She had them, and that they were going to go, oh crap, we did say these things. Here us saying it, and then by posting that video, the one that made it look like Dana said, when I'm telling you things, I'm not telling the truth, or whatever the fake subtitle said, kind of just trashed her whole argument. I mean, the timetable, you think of that. She releases the video earlier in the week. And then it goes back and forth, and we're kind of like, well, I don't know if that's really what happened. And then Dana makes the interview saying we're moving on from her. That day, Cyborg apologized. She had demanded, it was very aggressive the way she said it, an apology, or she wouldn't even do business and negotiate with them. And within like 4 days, she's apologizing to them. And it's just that one we talked about earlier about Colby and having a production team or having a PR team and stuff like that. Well, Cyborg does have a production team apparently.
Yeah.
So that's a thing, I guess, that some fighters may have. I mean, I don't think we know she doesn't run her social media. It's her boyfriend Ray Elbe. Anyways, but yeah, this is it. She's gonna move on like we kind of expected. It kind of hurt her stock a little bit, but Scott Coker didn't care. He like you saw the like 5 minutes after the interview came out, and we saw him. Bronstetter said something, and then I don't know, Raimondi said something, and then Scott Coker's like, "Hey!" So
yeah, with the Jurassic Park gif.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Coker is the official pettyweight champion of social media, as far as I'm concerned. He is he's a marvel at saying the pettiest things possible at the best moments. So shout out to Scott Coker for that. I know one thing I do have to get off my chest. The initial video that Cyborg put out. First of all, I think that lies on her lap, whether it was her production team or her personally. Yeah, the fact that it was packaged as the Dana White confrontation video, I think that was the official title before it was pulled down. Something alluding to that. It was trash. I'm sorry. I watched that whole terrible 16-minute video to watch about 45 seconds of trash. That was trash. I was very disappointed by that. There was no real confrontation. That was a conversation. Actually seemed like a pretty friendly conversation as well. So that was super trash. Ben, give me your thoughts on this. Do you think that now that like this is the best thing for both parties is to simply move on?
Yeah, I actually think it's the best thing for all parties to move on this way. It's just unfortunate that this is the way it had to come out. That the parties involved are so adversarial and so dishonest and so disingenuous that instead of just parting ways peacefully and saying this is the best thing for the UFC, this is the best thing for Cristiane Justino, like there had to be just like counter accusations thrown here and there. Because honestly, I mean, her best next step probably is in Bellator. I've wanted to see her fight Julia Budd for 6 years. I still want to see it now more than I want to see her fight.
Name.
Thank you, Amanda Nunes. Again,
Oh,
I thought you were trying to name another fighter.
I was too.
I'm never trying to name another fighter. Just go with the most obvious answer with me and just spit it out, and we're probably good.
Holly Holm.
You know, it's okay. Not that again. All right, but. Yeah, I want to see this again. It's unfortunate because everybody came out of this looking bad. The problem is that Dana White and the UFC came out of it looking bad in a way that we already knew about them. Of course, they'll sue her fighters that are under contract or not under contract. We learned things that we didn't want to know about Cyborg. If you're like me and you're kind of a sucker and kind of a mark and thought she was the good guy or good girl in all this. But yeah, I mean, she's been done incredibly dirty by the UFC and people involved with them. Before she was ever under contract, when she was just still fighting in Invicta 9 or 10 years ago, and Dana was still saying that women would never fight in the UFC, they were saying some unconscionable shit about her. And however you feel about it on a professional level, on a personal level, on a professional level, can you picture the CEO of any other company just like, saying that the high profile employee of another company like looks like a man when they're a woman and looks like Vanderlei?
So that one, you talking about the Vanderlei thing?
Yeah.
I know I got the gist of where Dana was coming back from the Vanderlei thing. But what really sucks about the whole thing is that you could tell that both sides were just trying to win.
Yes,
and it wasn't
exactly.
It wasn't. I like logically, he was like, all right, we're not gonna fit. Let's just walk away. And that could have been the idea for Cyborg even before the Felicia fight. she was like, because she only had with her last fight, so she could have just, already planned to walk away. But she had the idea, and for whatever reason, it could have been the past with the comments. It could have been how she was treated. It could have been a number of things. But in her mind, she wanted to win on the way out, as opposed to just let's just end this. You know what I'm saying? Because she felt like she been what was it, downtrodden or whatever this whole time, right? So she wanted to get the win and backfired.
And she wanted to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it backfired on her real big. So
big time.
No,
oh my God.
No,
dare I say this isn't necessarily going to backfire on the UFC, because as you said, Ben, earlier, that Dana White did what Dana White does, what we expect him to do. Let's give a shout out to the fantastic revisionist history on that little PR segment that went live on YouTube Friday. The idea that you'll talk about Jermaine Durandamy not fighting Cyborg off of principle due to PED testing issues, yet you did strip her of the title because she refused to fight Cyborg.
And they shit on her harder than almost any other fighter in the modern era for doing so.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing, but we've become so accustomed to that from the UFC that we buy into the revisionist history. We just like,
it's on brand. It's on brand.
Yeah.
So it's not something that shocks us into any sort of state of disbelief. It's like, oh, it's Tuesday. Is what happens when Dana White says something that's completely baseless or a total revisionist job. So that I was very entertained. I do enjoy historical fiction, so that was fun. All right.
It was fun, but that's the thing, is like people get the crazy thing about it is like people get so like emotionally attached to it, as opposed, just look at it for what it is. Like, we know Dana White, we know how he speaks and the shit that he says to people. Just watch it. People get all caught up in it, and then that's really where the emotions get involved, and it switches stuff up. People like lose their minds about what Dana said, and it's just be entertained, people.
Yeah, at a certain point, I mean, in a situation like this, I think we kind of know what to expect from that side of the fence. Right. And if you are surprised by this, have you been paying attention?
Have you been watching? Exactly. Yeah.
No, they haven't.
They haven't. All right, so let's move on from this. Something that's much more important as far as the direction of the sport took place. The Association of Boxing Commissions and Combative Sports, they voted to redefine what a grounded fighter is, and now the ruling is that a fighter is considered down if they have a fist or palm on the canvas. So I'll start with you, Ben. What do you think about this decision?
I'm bummed because there's a change, really, because what happens is every time there's a change to this rule, there's kind of this lag of like a full year behind as referees get used to it, fighters get used to it, coaches get used to it and work towards it in camp. Like we're not even fully caught up on the last rule change, and it was over a year ago. That's what mostly bums me out. Like, I understand the reasoning behind this, that like, okay, 3 fingertips on the ground doesn't make a knee to the head illegal anymore. Like, that's fine. Now it has to be a palm or a fist. But the thing is, we haven't really even got the old rule under our belts yet. And that's mostly what bums me out. All I want to see out of this is, clean competition where fighters aren't subjected to needlessly dangerous techniques, and the consistency and the muscle memory and the repetition that we don't get stupid disqualifications that ruin otherwise interesting fights. That's all I care about. Right. So if this is what the new rule is going to be, do it and fucking stick with it.
Jay, am I asking too much when I say that I want unified rules to be unified?
Well, I don't want to go negative Nancy or anything, but this is the ABC.
Yes,
they don't a little bit. They don't govern anything. They are an advisory board that other states can then, and this is what happened back in the day with the unified rules and all that, many, many moons ago, where there was the set of rules and states decided we like that, we're going to do that.
Right.
And then other states said, no, I like this way. I'm going to do it this way. Then New Jersey said, no, we're going and doing all this weird stuff. So all these different states have to adopt these rules. They have to vote on them and get to it, which the legislative process is very slow. As an attorney, I can tell you that these things take forever just to get there. I think it was 42 states, so I don't know where the other 8 were, but okay, fine. All voted unanimously to say, okay, so that's a good sign. Because last time when this whole thing happened, New Jersey, yes, New Jersey again, held out of the rule changes. They said, we don't want to do this, all of this, because you're going to allow heel strikes to the kidney. If you're on your back and you kick the guy with your heels, we're saying that any strike to the kidney in any way, except for, getting punched there, whatever, should be illegal. We shouldn't have let this happen no matter what. And they said, screw your new rules. We're going to keep them like we are, because if we have to take one, we're going to take them all. So they didn't. So until these commissions actually start, working things out, we're kind of stuck. Or if the ABC actually becomes a governing body and what the ABC says goes, then okay, then we have more of an organizational standard. Until then, we just kind of got to shrug our shoulders and go, hey, wait, is replay allowed here? I don't remember. I don't know. John Anik, what are we going to do this tonight? Is it this rule? Is it that one? I don't know. I can't even keep track, and that's what I do.
Yeah, I always get frustrated every time I'm watching an event and it says the rules for this particular event, and I always be like, isn't this the same damn country that last week's event was in? I mean, it's an imaginary line that's separating what rules we're fighting in under this in the same country. So, Mike, as a guy who's stepped in the cage in a couple of different jurisdictions, what's it like trying to prepare for one rule set or another?
Well, I'll be honest with you. For my style of fighting, I don't even go to the rules meeting because I already know, I know what I'm going to do. So, I've been in this game 11 years. Yeah. This is gonna hurt, man. Until we know what the rules should be as far as the 12-6s and the grounded. Like, we know what they should be, but with these constant changes, look, I work closely with the Texas Commission, and they already have a hard time with the rules as it is, and this is just gonna hurt a lot of people. I've been to other states as well where the rules are because you have to ask the people beforehand, like, are we doing the unified? Or no, I think I went somewhere right when the rules changed. I was like, are we doing the new rules or old rules?
Oh no.
And then they were just like, old rules. I was like, oh, okay. So I saw, like you said, it took at least a year or so for it to be implemented. It's gonna suck because these guys aren't ready for it. They're not ready for the current change, let alone this new one.
What I'm waiting for is for that controversial moment that Ben was describing, where someone's hand is coming off the mat and they get kneed in the head. But I'm waiting for the replay over and over again to see if whether the palm was flat or if it was just fingertips, and then for everyone to just step back and be like, "Wow, this is really fucking stupid."
100%.
Well,
that's the moment I'm
Josh Koscheck.
It'll just become the same thing we're used to in stick and ball sports, where while the referees are reviewing something, we watch the same pitch replayed, 9 times to see how far it was inside the strike zone, which is unfortunate because that's what I thought I was getting away from when I got into people fighting in a cage with no rules.
Oh man, they're trying to civilize the uncivilized. All right, so let's move on from this. Very briefly, we'll talk a little bit about PFL. The opening round of their 2019 season is coming to a close this week. So from your perspective, Jay, how has this season gone so far?
I mean, I won't mince words. It's been a dud. It hasn't had the sizzle. It hasn't had the pop. It hasn't had the other adjectives that last year seemed to have. They had the figures that did the things, and they had the whoa, wait a second. Benny Magalhager's doing something again. He's smoking dudes in the first round again and again and again. Ray Cooper, who is this kid? He's a Hawaiian crazy person knocking everybody out. We don't have a story to latch onto. We don't have a lot to follow. I mean, statistically speaking, I got to do it. The finish rate's under 50% so far. And that, okay, fine, finishes aren't everything and all that stuff. Well, last year by this point was 70%. Now, that's not insignificant. And right now, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly, like, to pull a Burgos, I don't know. I don't know what is exactly the malaise in PFL, whether it's multiple weight missing, whether it's a lack of a person to root for. I don't root for anybody because I'm just covering it straight up. But it doesn't have the, I don't know. It doesn't have the je ne sais quoi. Whether it's also the broadcast schedule, we don't know how to watch it because sometimes it's on ESPN2, sometimes it's on ESPN Plus. It's just, there's a lot of things in the air. And then, oh, by the way, the rules from last year haven't changed. And if you remember really quickly, there were 9 draws in the tournament. 9 draws where nobody won the fight, but somebody advanced. We're about to get that again, boys. So I don't know.
Ben, tell me if you agree with this or not. I kind of think that the novelty is worn off. We've seen what this format looks like. It was fun. We had a good time with it, and now it's just kind of another MMA product out there.
It's another MMA product, and it has all the problems that you have when you're watching like a regional promotion for the first time. Like, I don't know any of these cats, and some of them aren't very good fighters. With none of the bonuses that PFL offered us last year. The great thing PFL gave us last season, their first try at the season and playoff format, was the season was a banger. Every single event, because the rule set incentivized finishes and specifically incentivized early finishes, you had a bunch of unknown dudes who were very talented in some cases with an incentive to get out there and whoop somebody's ass in the first round. Every single event during the regular season was awesome. You had eye-popping finishes. You had highlight moments. I mean, I've made this comparison a few times, but it felt like the first season or two of Bellator like 9 or 10 years ago, where you had this kind of weird highlight, like any crazy thing can happen at any moment type feel. And it bogged down during the playoffs. Now it's already bogged down during the regular season. It's a lot of fighters with kind of similar grindy styles. They've had a lot of weight misses that they're not really prepared to deal with from an organizational standpoint. Because when you're trying to mimic the season and playoffs format of a stick and ball league, but at best your guys can only get in 3 fights in one season, you're going to have a lot of people being slotted into replacement slots that nobody has any idea who the hell they are. I mean, picture an NFL season where like one of the wildcard teams has 2 guys injured, and so they just stick in, a team from NFL Europe. To just like jump into the playoffs for them and nobody's ever seen any of them play. That's what it feels like already. So yeah, I mean, PFL has a ton of talent. They have a platform that they can broadcast on. They have a significant amount of interest, but the interest is dying fast. This might be the last season for the season and playoffs format, unless it just becomes a complete money sink.
All right. So Mike, do you think this is a moment of growing pains for PFL, or are we seeing the beginning of the end?
I'm gonna say we're seeing the beginning of the end, and here's why. You look at I look at the way they're running their business, right? So, like Ben mentioned, the weight issue. I have a former teammate friend who's on there, Daniel Pineda, and I saw how they handled his weight, or the whole weight situation. So Daniel's opponent, this was Daniel's first fight in PFL. You have the opponent who had competed previously. He already had points, right? So, and I'm gonna tell you why exactly. But in a moment, so the dude, he misses weight. Daniel makes weight, so obviously they're gonna give Daniel the pass, right? Logically, you would just put Daniel in that position. Like that would have been the end of it. And I'm like, okay, these dudes are pretty smart here. But what they decided to do is like, okay, well, the guy misses weight, but he's competed before and he already has these points. So we're going to use the points as a tiebreaker. And because the other guy had more points because he competed before, he got the advancement or whatever. And so Daniel was kicked out of the tournament or initially. And then they have, I guess, maybe a conversation, and then they go back and redo the rules. If you're a promotion, look, I get that we're doing things like it's a new format or whatever, But if you're running a promotion and you don't have something as simple as a weight issue figured out, you can't convince me that you have your entire business model figured out. And you're out here giving millions of dollars away. Look, two things people ask me what I would love to do when I'm done fighting. And they always ask me if I want to be a coach or a gym owner and a promoter. Those are the last two things I would want to be. promoter is the first one. It's because I understand what goes into this business. I have friends who are promoters and I see what they're running, and I was like, and they're successful. And I was just like, I don't want that. And I've seen some people crash and burn with the quickness. And PFL is just fortunate enough to have a larger platform and a little bit deeper pockets to kind of move around. But these people aren't going to throw money at it all day. Eventually, they're going to run out, and the promotion is going to be gone.
So Mike Jackson has officially said he is not going to be a promoter, therefore forfeiting his chance to have snow imported to his driveway.
But he also said or implied that his fighting days are not done. So my bare knuckle question still stands, like for later in the show.
I have a feeling Mike Jackson's about to break some news exclusively on Sherdog.com, so stay tuned.
He's about to get put on the spot.
All right, fellas, because all three of you probably could kick my ass, this is the one moment that I have to express power over you, and that is the lightning round. That is me timing you and ready to move in and shut you down if you go across the 30 seconds. Ben, I'm talking to you.
Shit.
All right, so Ben, show Mike how it's done for the lightning round for this first question. You've got 30 seconds.
Mike has never been on the show with me, and he already knows I can't stop talking in 30 seconds.
Oh, this is my favorite part, Ben. You've got 30 seconds to answer this question. Both Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson picked up wins at one championship over the weekend. But do you think they can stay relevant in the promotion? 30 seconds. Go.
They can stay relevant in the promotion, but not in their weight classes globally. Demetrius Johnson is still a top 10 guy at 125 or 135 for as long as he wants to be. Alvarez looked old and busted up his knee quick in spite of looking incredibly swole like he never has before. So he'd know, DJ, yes.
Oh, look at that. With all this time to spare, Ben, I'm impressed. Mike, I'm going to start with you now. 30 seconds. Tell me. Can DJ and Eddie Alvarez stay relevant in one championship?
I feel DJ can stay relevant. I feel he has the charisma. I feel he has the personality, the fighting style, the size to stay relevant in the Asian market. Eddie Alvarez, no, he's getting old. His body's getting worn out. It's a little bit different from him now with the weight classes. I don't think he lasts.
All right. Oh, look at that. Actually following Ben's example when the one time Ben does it right. Damn you, Ben, for taking this fun away from me. Jay, I'm gonna ask you now the same question. DJ, Eddie Alvarez, do they stay relevant in one?
Well, I need to ask you guys, can you name any champion in one FC, one championship, without looking?
Brandon Vera.
Angslan.
I mean, that's a tough one. The guys that are fighting in one are ranked, and they're ranked because they were ranked before, and they went over to one as ranked fighters. They'll get paid and they may win, but if a tree falls in the forest and only 30 trillion people are around to hear it, doesn't actually make a sound.
Oh, man, I hope you said more because I would have given you extra time for that one. Yeah, all right, so let me go ahead, reset this, and I'll give my 30 seconds. I don't think that they're going to remain relevant for very long because at least relevant as far as North American standards. One came on at like 3 a.m. Not many people are staying up to watch that. I do think, however, DJ can find new life in the esports. I think that's where his future lies with the organization. Eddie Alvarez, on the other hand, I believe we are seeing the beginning of the end, and he is one of the greatest lightweights of all time, but everyone's time comes to an end. Oh, my God, I'm still the man because I still had 2.5 seconds left over. All right, so I'm going to move on to the second question.
Real quick,
yeah, what's up, man?
Speaking on that, with one coming to the U.S., does that help DJ at all?
It can, but I don't think that one is really going to be able to come to the U.S. successfully.
I don't think so either.
They're
I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, they're so about self-regulation and smoke and mirrors that's as much as we can make fun of U.S.-based commissions. they exist for a reason and they serve a purpose that one clearly does not want to follow.
And after we are off camera, I am going to make fun of Louisiana regulation to y'all because I don't even know if Mike caught it all. But anyway, sorry.
I mean, you guys doing a lot of business in Texas. Texas is not exactly known for regulatory affairs being in order.
Except marijuana.
I will tell you firsthand. Look, I know I will shit on Texas TR forever. They have nothing on Louisiana.
No, seriously. I don't even think Mike knows the story I'm about to tell, and it happened 2 nights ago. All right.
Oh, I can't wait for this one. All right, so second question, fellas, and I'll start with you on this one, Mike. What do you think about Cain Velasquez this weekend? His pro wrestling performance at Lucha Libre, or what's it called? Triple Mania, I think was the name of the event. You got 30 seconds, Mike.
Oh man, I didn't get to see it, but I was really excited to see him sort of getting that passion over on the wrestling side. I know they asked a couple of guys backstage how he went. They would seem to be very pleased. Now I know they could be just talking a little smoke, but if he has something that he wants to stick with, or pursue, let him stick with it.
All right. Very nice. Still under time there. Okay, Jay, your turn now. Tell me, what do you thought about Cain Velasquez at Triple Mania?
I guess we were wrong in our calls for Cain to hang up everything. I mean, I didn't see the whole thing. I saw the clips. He did a flipping triangle thing. He was all over the place. If he got paid well, he might have a future in this. I mean, he's 37. His best buddy's still the champ. He hasn't won a fight for 3 years. Does he really want to keep doing this for much longer? I mean, what does he have to prove now? I say go have fun.
Oh man, I was so hoping you'd say about 4 more words because I was about to chop it off right there. All right, Ben, tell me, what do you think, man? Cain Velasquez as a pro wrestler.
I'm bummed out to say this because in 16, 17 years of fandom of this sport, Cain Velasquez is the guy that I believed in and kind of still believe in against all odds. But I think he should go towards wrestling. He looked great. I caught it today. He looked amazing. He popped. He performed well. If his knees and back and neck can hold up, which is what killed him in MMA, go for it, man.
Oh man, everybody's going under time, and it's really irritating me because I want to cut somebody off. All right, so
I have been completely embarrassed like 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
Let's make it 3. Yeah. Make it 3 in a row. All right. So I'll start the timer for my 30 seconds. Yeah, man. Cain Velasquez looked good as a pro wrestler. That knee looked pretty damn healthy to me. So it seems like this is what he really wants to do. More power to him. It is a shame that we didn't get to see a true healthy Cain Velasquez stick around in the UFC and really live up to his potential there, even still with him being one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. So, of course, I came in at the time because I always do, because I'm incredible.
Because you're looking at the clock.
But I'm looking at it incredibly. So, all right. So, Jay, I'm going to start with you. Dana White, again, stated that the Ultimate Fighter will be coming back. Does this make any damn sense?
Let's go. All right. Here's the problem that Tough's going to run into now. A lot of their talent that they've been scouting is being taken by the Contender Series. So that pool they have of guys they're looking out for or girls they're looking out to is going to be a lot smaller now. It doesn't simulate what the UFC is all about. They don't have the coaches. They don't have they have to cut weight all the time. It's a mess. Scrap Tough, move on. Contender Series, go.
All right. Perfect timing. Okay, Mike, tell me, man, what do you think about the Ultimate Fighter still being a thing? And go.
The truth.
I like it from a content standpoint. If they do something where they can market or even tie in the Contender Series with Tough, I think it could be something new and cool. If it's the same format as in the past, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna work.
All right. And Ben, tell me, man, what do you think?
The Ultimate Fighter has been a dead idea for almost 10 years now, but it's never been deader than it is now. As soon as the Contender Series came around, it became super unnecessary because the Contender Series is the Ultimate Fighter with all the bullshit stripped away. It's just the fights. They walk to the cage, they fight, and we have a decision. You know, we we don't have people like pissing on each other's bed and jacking off on each other's food. There's no people drunkenly screaming about like they're fatherless bastards and shit.
Oh my God, this man violates the clock. Yes.
And
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
I had a lot left to go.
All right, well, please continue. Actually,
go ahead.
Because
No.
I'm gonna jump on this too.
No,
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, like the UFC was actually settling into a good spot where it could draw from its de facto feeder leagues, Invicta, LFA, Cage Warriors, or it could put those feeder leagues under its own spotlight on its own network in the form of the Contender Series. It's great if you've got a dude on an undercard that some of your fans have already seen because they're, he whooped that guy's ass last summer on Contender Series. That's even better than I had to YouTube, his fight in LFA.
Oh, yeah.
To go back on that by resurrecting the dead corpse of the Ultimate Fighter for another season is just the stupidest thing ever. It's just fewer fights with more bullshit piled on.
I'm just not understanding why Tough is still a thing. Why are we doing this any longer? And this is what I'm really afraid of with Tough being a thing again, is that because the Contender Series is there and that's just the fights, because all these other regional promotions are there, that now for some reason we're going to continue this show, but it's going to focus more on the reality show aspect.
Ugh.
Because that's the only thing that has to stand out.
Content. Oh, did I cut you off?
Oh, no. You're good. Please.
I'm telling you, and when I'm as yours, and I didn't think about it literally until we're having this conversation, and I'm thinking about the Contender Series, and I know they bring these guys out. They have them over at the PI. Again, if they package it right, if they revamp it in a way where you can tie in the Contender Series, it may work if you do it where it's like an online kind of platform. Because I don't know, I didn't hear anything about where it's going to be shown on TV or not. But if it's maybe like an online thing,
on Spike.
No, it's moving. I do know it. It is. It's moving on to ESPN Plus all the way.
Okay,
that's what I read last.
Yeah, we have to remember is like they have ESPN money now. They got that Disney money. Mm-hmm. So things are going to change, right? On top of the WME IMG money. So, again, if it's the same format, the shit's going to be trash. But if they can do something with – because, again, I'm over here talking the promoters, and they want content. You know what I'm saying? So if they can do it in a packaged way where it can provide some solid content and bring in viewers, they going to do it.
All right. Okay, so let's move on from that topic from the lightning round. Although we kind of deviated away from the lightning round, but Ben still provided great cannon fodder for me. Thank you, sir,
gave
for
us
that.
some good content.
Yeah, great content from Ben Duffy. Appreciate that, my man. Please don't screw up any of my edits in retaliation. All right, the UFC is making its debut in Uruguay this weekend. Valentina Shevchenko is taking on Liz Carmouche for the strawweight title. Any thoughts about this card as a whole? Anything that's standing out in particular to you? I'll start with you, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I've got thoughts about this card. It's just another fight night card, and this is your first fight in Uruguay. There are no Uruguayan fighters on roster, but there are a couple of Argentinian ones that are from like right on the border. Santiago Ponzinibbio comes to mind.
Whoops, he's not fighting on it.
Which is what I was going to say. They're running into more and more trouble having their cards make geographical sense as they get busier and busier. They've just got to fill that card, and they can't give as much thought to who's actually from that area and could generate some local interest. Having said that, it's still a terrible card. I don't like to shit on UFC cards in advance. It's too easy to just, kind of be the jaded dude. But this is just another fight night card. The headline fight, it's not as lopsided as the lines would make it seem. I don't think Shevchenko should be a minus 1,200 favorite or whatever she is. But she's probably going to beat up Carmouche. And then the rest of the card is full of the kind of same thing the last couple of Fight Night and UFC on ESPN cards have been, where there are individual fighters I'm excited to see because they're back or I want to see what they're going to do next. But there aren't many matchups that make a ton of sense from a competitive standpoint while also promising interest. Even the co-headliner, Vicente Luque versus Mike Perry, everyone has their hands up in the air about this. But unless Vicente Luque has been drinking leaded water, he's not going to play Mike Perry's game. This dude has been doing Vale Tudo, since he was like 13 years old, he has a disgustingly underrated ground game. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, and if not for running into Leon Edwards, he'd be on like a 9-fight winning streak. He's going to destroy Mike Perry. He's going to take him down, and he's going to choke him out and make him look stupid. So, yeah, I mean, Latifi versus Oezdemir sounds like dynamite on paper, but it's probably going to end up with both of them dead tired in a boring fight in the third round. So, yeah, I don't love this. I'll be watching it. I do love that, the UFC is putting a couple of its undefeated prospects in interesting tests. Alexei Kunchenko versus Gilbert Durinho Burns is an interesting one. But yeah, other than that, it's just going to be another card. Like, hopefully it delivers fireworks. Hopefully some people move up and some people move down, but I'm not expecting too much.
All right. So, Jay, does it mean anything to you that Valentina Shevchenko is headlining this card, considering that she's also kind of made Peru her adopted home?
I mean, that's probably the best they could do besides Brazilian champion to put on this card. I mean, we got to remember it's a fight night card with a title on top. Now, we just had that with 240 with Holloway, the Vancouver card, or Vancouver, whatever, the Holloway Edmonton card. Edmonton, thank you. Where it was a fight night card with a title on top. This is the case, except for we don't have to pay for it. It's a card. I mean, it really is. I mean, you have a little bit of the story. I looked and could not find footage of their first fight where Carmouche beat Shevchenko. This has happened. Carmouche TKO'd her. I mean, it was by retirement. Shevchenko quit in the stool, or they threw in the towel. That's all we really know. But Carmouche beat her about 9 years ago. So if Carmouche can get a wrestling going, she is so strong. Now this is 10 pounds lighter than their first fight, so that could be interesting. But yeah, I mean, Ben's right. I mean, Luke Perry, I kind of expect it's going to go. Luke's, been crushing it, and Perry's the same Perry. He's always going to parry. So what's going to happen. Latifi, stupid strong wrestler, probably going to stupid strong wrestle Oezdemir, kind of like what Cormier did, except for without the finish. Yeah, you can kind of cherry pick. You have a heavyweight fight on there, Rafael Pessoa, he was fought in the LFA actually. 2 undefeated heavyweight bangers. What's going to happen? Someone's going to fall down. So okay, that's fun. We'll take it. And then I do one last one I want to point out is Alexei Kunchenko. He's 20-0, which is very rare, but his UFC fights are Thiago Alves and beloved Yushin Okami. Shell of a Yushin Okami that we once knew.
He's basically walking through the UFC Hall of Fame and just vandalizing shit as he goes.
So this is kind of his first test. And Durinho's no joke. Durinho throws hard. He's a jiu-jitsu guy who throws bombs. So okay, fine, test him. Go 21-0. That'd be crazy. There are only a couple. I think 27-0 is Khabib, or 28-0, and then we have Yaroslav Amosov in Bellator. And that's the only 2 undefeated guys with records that good in any legit promotion. So that means something, doesn't it? Guys, nothing?
I guess. But Mike, is this the Saturday that you decide to catch a movie?
No, actually, I'll be commentating a Booker T's wrestling pay-per-view this weekend. But no, I legit feel like these kinds of cards, they're put together, and Ben made a great point, is like they're going to sort of showcase certain fighters. And I think, there's so much power and so much money behind this. You can put on these cards and you can go to Uruguay and you can get fit, because this card isn't going to lose money, right? So you can put this card out in a chance that something just dope happens and it gets put on like a top 10 ESPN. It did, like, people, and that's the thing, like, people like to complain about these cards. Don't watch it. But I promise you, it's still gonna make. And I'm not talking about us as journalists. I meant like from the fans' perspective. But it's not gonna lose money. It's great to go over there and get your face seen to the public face, or in the public. Look, man, watch, something dope is gonna happen, and I bet watch, it's gonna be like that Mike Perry Vincent De Luque fight. There's gonna be something dope is gonna happen, and people were like, it was worth it. I watched.
Yeah, that tends to be the case when you got a card devoid of a lot of big names. All right, fellas. So let's move on to our final segment, and that is the buried lead. So I'll start with you, Ben. What is your buried lead for this week?
I don't even feel like it's buried for any regular watchers of this show because one or the other of the three of us has talked about it for like the last 4 weeks straight. But Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 7 is going on this weekend. It was going to be their great big triumphant pay-per-view. It was going to have Leonard Garcia versus
Jason Knight.
Jason Knight. Hick Diaz, two UFC veterans
Bangers.
known for their brawling style, even if they were not technically sound strikers, even by MMA standards. But Jason Knight fell out. So now it is a free card and nobody knows about it. Like, we have had people in the Sherdog editorial chat being like, did you guys know there was a bare knuckle card this weekend? Yes, I did. So it is apparently buried because even people in the business don't know what's happening. I have the feeling this is the beginning of the end for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. And because it has hitched its star to being identified with former MMA fighters. But what I really want to know is if they can get Mike the Truth Jackson to not lace them up for one of their fights.
Okay. I have a great story. Is it my turn? Can I go?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, man.
Great story for you, right? So one day I was on Facebook and I see a post. It's like, yo, who wants to try out for bare knuckle fighting? I was like, I raised my hand in my head. I was like, I'll do it. And the reason why is a few years back, I did it was called BKB. It was supposed to be bare knuckle boxing.
But they had the glove with the knuckle missing.
We wore Grant boxing gloves with the knuckle cut out.
Yeah.
Literally the only way like you can land with your knuckle is if you do like an overhand, like a downward right punch or whatever punch. Like that's how, and I don't punch like that. So I never landed with my knuckles like through like a bare knuckle, right? So anyway, fast forward, Facebook post, tryouts are in Philadelphia. I put out a post. Hey, who wants to? It was like a GoFundMe or something. Hey, I want to go try out for bare knuckle fighting in Philadelphia, but I don't want to. The flight was like $500, and it was last minute. I didn't want to pay for it, so the people paid for it. Anyway, first time in Philadelphia. It was at like some warehouse. Oh, it was the tryouts were at the ECW arena. I walked in, and I looked up, and I see like a Tommy Dreamer Hall of Fame banner hanging in the rafters. I was like, oh shit, we here. Anyway, I'm looking around at the people trying out, and I'm like, yo, if they let me fight any of these dudes, I'm killing them all. I was like, it's not fair. So anyway, how the tryouts went, we did like these interviews, which was cool. And then we did it was like a pad session with the mid holder. I'm watching these dudes. I was like, no, y'all must have never hit pads before, let alone before. Now, granted, there were some like obviously had an A side and B side of boxers. There were a few. I mean, there was a handful of us on the A side that was there, but I'm looking at these B siders like, man, this is gonna be bad for some of y'all. So we had this punching machine. Then we did like the punch. Oh, that was the other thing. We did like a punching power machine. I just stand right in front of it and rock it. And I forgot what the number was. Yo, there was dudes like winding up and running. And I was like, wait, we could do that? I was like, if I could do that, my number would be way higher too. So we did we did something. I can't remember. It was like a few different little sessions. Anyway, the dude who runs it though, like the guy who was like the face of it, like that was actually the guy who I saw because we're friends on Facebook.
Feldman.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went and he was like, oh, Mike, yeah, I know you was in the UFC. You got a good shot, this, that, and the other. And so I was like, all right, whatever. And then months go by and I hear nothing, right? So I was like, it's nothing. Well, then I see, dude, when they bring it back, they're gonna put on the actual bare knuckle. I see dude, old Felder on the TV. I was like, oh shit, this is what I was supposed to be in. Anyway, I watched the Art of Lowball Jason Knight fight.
Oh.
I looked at that, I was like, I'm not about that life no more. Because I legit was like, yo, can I have some? I'm good friends with Johnny Bedford, their champion.
Oh yeah, he's the champ.
So, yeah, so he's doing. I was hanging out with him this past weekend in Dallas, but no, I saw the Jason Knight, and I was just like, not for me. I'll watch it because it's fun. It's fighting. I love fighting, but there's no way I'm doing that ever in my life.
All right, Mike. So I'll keep the floor with you, Mike. What's your buried lead for the week?
My buried lead of the week is going to be a young man out of Louisiana. His name is Sean Dupree. My man came out and hit dude with the Jorge Masvidal, the 4-second flying knee. What was Jorge's 4 seconds?
5 seconds.
Jorge, get out of here. We got hit with the Sean Dupree knee. You know, and it was on the Fury 34 under amateur card. The kid, you know, he trains with a good group of guys. He trains with Tim Crater and Ryan Spann. So, you know, he comes from a good camp. He's been getting a lot of heat, though, for the flying knee. You have some people who, they call it a dirty tactic. So just to describe it for you, before the bell starts, the opponent puts his hand up as to touch gloves. Now, Sean, he doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't give him a yes or a no. Just the bell rings, and as the bell rings, Sean kind of like takes that little. Well, he kind of like, you know, we don't want to just go right into the run. We got to get a little hot, you know, as we, you know, get into it. I know some of y'all may know about that. You got to get a little hot before you run into it. Well, Sean runs. The dude has his hand up in the air. Sean already had in his mind he was going to throw that knee. Sean can't just change his mind because he sees his opponent, who, by the way, he's about to get into a fist fight with, has his hand up. You think this man is going to change his mindset? Nah, he's going to launch that knee. He's going to send it. And he sent it. And that dude, it was a beautiful knee. I know people like to downtrodden it, but it was a beautiful knee. Man,
R.I.P. young man.
You can see that knee on Sherdog.com on the front page. I wrote up a recap of Fury FC 34 from Lake Charles, Louisiana. You can find it under my little drop-down menu. Animation and incidental music courtesy of Mike the Truth Child.
I want to know. I want the people to know. I want you guys to watch the video and watch it just unbiased and make a comment and let us know if you feel it was a fair play. Again, rules meeting. Protect yourself at all times.
Boom.
But I've watched that knockout probably 10 or 12 times now, and the music has made me laugh every time.
Well, that and the slow-mo was just
the slow-mo. It's so good.
Just running over. Oh.
What does it rank with the animation of Anthony Joshua's spirit leaving his body and flying back to England?
Oh no, it can't compete with that.
It's not quite there, but on an amateur level, it's the type of thing.
Okay.
Amateur MMA.
I legit did this. I was half asleep at like 4 a.m, piecing that together just to put up and post. It was a quick one for me.
All right. Hey Jay, so tell me what's your buried lead for the week?
All right, I'm going to take you all on a journey. We're going to go to Italy because Bellator is going to Italy. And Bellator is going to Bellator. All right. It's a buried lead because Bellator themselves or itself is burying this card or these cards. Bellator is taking this trip to Italy in Milan, and they're splitting it up into 3 separate events. They're going to have Bellator 230, Bellator Milan, and Bellator Kickboxing 12. And they're going, it's all the same time. It's the same night. It's not a different set of things. It's the same night, and they're going to have kickboxing in the morning. So what's going to happen is on the Bellator app, I know we'll have to explain this again, I'm sure. Bellator app, only the Bellator app. 11 in the morning, kickboxing. And then on Paramount, they're going to show weeks later like they do sometimes, like weeks later. And then at 5 p.m., roughly, they're going to show Bellator Milan. the Milan portion, which is headlined by Melvin Manhoef versus 9-4 Yannick Bahati. So Melvin Manhoef versus. And then there is a lengthy intermission for everybody because on tape delay, the rest of the card, Bellator 230, which is headlined by Rafael Carvalho and Vadim Nemkov, so Carvalho is moving up to light heavyweight, will be on tape delay. So they are breaking this one night of fights up, which is going to be, a 5-hour card, into an all-day affair with tape delays and medium switches and channel changes, and just stop, Bellator, stop. Just, do you want us to watch this product? Do you want people to watch it? What is the point of this? If I have to do this to explain it to guys that already watched this or try to, how the heck can any other person reasonably try and figure this out? You have to have an instruction manual. No, that's not how this is supposed to work. I can't figure out how to watch the fights. I'm going to watch them. That's it, right?
The one plus side to this is that I'll be able to tune into the Sherdog Slack channel as everyone is trying to express their confusion and frustrations and trying to see anything. And hopefully, are we doing staff picks on that one?
Please no.
No. Okay, good.
No.
Because speaking frankly, as somebody who is obsessed with this sport and covers it for a good portion of his living, I have no idea who the fuck 90% of the people on that card are.
Yeah, that was just going to be pure guesses. Wow.
Bellator going to Bellator.
Bellator get your shit together. All right. Yeah, they did their best to bury that one. So my buried lead for the week is Endeavor. They are, of course, very publicly were trying to make their company go public and trying to get on the stock market action and, have an IPO available, I think, for fall. But that has now been delayed as they have made plans public to acquire on location some sort of hospitality company for $700 million. So the question I want to ask about this, with Bellator, Jesus Christ, with the UFC being responsible for over $4 billion worth of debt for the company, and we've seen the promotion sort of shift in one direction as a result of this debt and this insatiable urge to make more money and pay these creditors. Does another $700 million debt have an effect on the UFC product as we know it? So it's just food for thought out there. Now, gentlemen, I believe that wraps things up for Off the Chain. So we're going to tell all the good folks that are listening and watching where they can find each and every one of us on social media and what work we have coming up. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Where can the good folks find you and your work?
Man, you can follow me online at The Truth Jackson on Twitter, Instagram, all the dope social media. I use everyone a little bit differently. Instagram, obviously for the dope photos and videos, but those conversations in Twitter, pictures, everything on Facebook. Follow the podcast it's called The Truth About Stuff. My guy Richard Burmaster. We're on all the platforms: iTunes, SoundCloud, all those good stuff. So yeah, check it out at MikeTheTruth.com/podcast.
All right. Jay, where can everyone find you and your work?
Well, everybody can find me on Twitter at Jay Pettry, Jay Pettry. You can find me on Sherdog, where I'm right at the main page. You go to the features section, and then on the drop down with the rest of my fellow writers at Sherdog. I do post-event stat pieces called Fight Facts, where I break down the weird stuff that happens, like walkout music and the fact that Colby Covington didn't throw a single ground strike despite 10 takedowns. Still weird to me. I do betting odds pieces, so a preview and a post of what the heck happened in major events. I'm also the UFC play-by-play guy. When there's a UFC event going on, I will be the guy sitting there frantically attacking the computer to let everybody know what is going on, play-by-play. So, check it out. Try it out.
All right, Ben, where can everyone find you?
Incidentally, if you and I ever throw down Ant, that's exactly how it will look. I will land 10 takedowns and not throw a single strike. Like the high school wrestler, like muscle memory will kick in, but I will be able to do absolutely nothing after I throw my shitty single leg. So just know that you won't be hurt.
All I need is one good leg kick. That's all I need.
Good leg kick. True.
That's probably all. No, I'm not saying that to make me personally feel satisfied. Not that I'd win it on that. That's just for my own satisfaction.
Hey. I'm Ben Duffy. I am senior editor at Sherdog.com. You can find me. Open the little features drop down from the front page. I am at the bottom of that menu because the first shall be last and the last shall be first, or so I've been told. I'm at Benjamin Duffy on Twitter, but mostly I'm here every Tuesday afternoon. I hope to see you next week.
All right. So I am Ant Walker. You can follow me on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. That's also my Instagram name. Follow me there, although I don't post things very often. Also, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Ask Ant, my regular columns. They go live for every event, and get those questions in for Ask Ant. And also the Trenches, the live chat that I do with Jason Burgos, will be going live on Wednesday evenings, I believe, 5 p.m. Pacific start time for that. And we're going to have some new production elements because Google Hangouts is now done away with our normal format, so we're forced to change. So hopefully you guys like the new format. And aside from that, I think that's about it, besides some stuff I got coming up for MMA On Point, as I'm one of their script writers as well. But anyway, he's Mike Jackson. That's Jay Pettry. That's Ben Duffy. I'm Ant Walker. Appreciate your time. And as always, stay beautiful. Stay positive. No matter if you find yourself once again the weakest man on the panel, it's all right. Just smile. It's a boy. Stay sexy. Take care, and I will see y'all when I see y'all. Peace.